from, man? You sound like you're from like you could be from England, but I'm not really even sure, man. Are you from the U.S.?
Yeah, I'm from the United States, man. That's the first time someone's told me that. That's good though. I think because I think that means that my traveling is paying off. I did stay over in Europe for I mean it wasn't that long. It was like 6 months, but it was continuous. And my fiance is Portuguese, so we spend
Awesome.
we spend time over there. It's a beautiful place. I think a lot of people, a lot of Americans don't realize that. I don't want to say we've been lied to because that's not correct at all. There's a lot of things that are great about living here, but there are a lot of things that are great about living in Europe that we don't get to experience here. Like once I got it was crazy. I got sick on my birthday. Like I had been sick a few days, but I got like I needed to go to the ER because I got a thermometer and I took my temperature and I put it into Celsius, and I was like, oh, I have a fever of 103 on in Fahrenheit, and that's like you got to go to the hospital. So I go check in, pretty much spent all night in the hospital. They gave me meds and everything, and it was 125 euro. And and they were like, "Oh, are you sure you're gonna be okay?" I'm like, "No, I'm good." Like this whole hospital visit is 125 euro, which is roughly like $150. So that's good economy for, or rather, uh, the citizens are taken care of differently, and I really enjoy that about being over there.
Yeah. We'll talk about world traveling later on because that's one thing I like you because like a lot of people are confined with the U.S. and they think the U.S. is the shit, and then everybody once you start traveling, you're like, okay, there's other badass places out here too.
Oh man, and it's yeah, we'll talk about it because
We'll talk about it. So
yeah.
let's kind of jump back a little bit. For somebody who doesn't know who you are, um, let's do like a pre-bio, like you, what you've done, what you've done in the past, when you've been an entrepreneur, stuff like that.
Okay, so a really brief bio of Ed Latimore and who I am.
Besides the crack jokes. Besides the crack
Besides the
jokes.
crack jokes. Yeah, so my claim to fame, why people care about anything that comes out of my mouth, is as I was a professional heavyweight boxer for oh man, like 7 years, 6 or 7 years. And prior to that, I had a pretty extensive amateur career. And then I decided, like at the start of my professional career, that I was not sure how this thing was going to turn out, which is really unusual. A lot of fighters are like the exact opposite, super confident, especially coming off of the amateur career that I had, which is pretty good. I did just about everything you could do as an amateur at the highest level except go to the Olympics. But I said, I know this is going to be taken away from me one day. So let me make sure I got a fallback plan. And my life was kind of miserable because I'm still working like shit jobs. And the cool thing about being a fighter is it's like the one way, there's two professions a man can get away with being a bum at, and girls are like, oh, it's okay. If you're a musician and if you're a fighter. And I was a fighter, so I was pretty much a bum, but I wasn't really a bum because I had something going. I was cool, right? But I said this ain't gonna work. So I went back. I went to the military. I enlisted in the military, and then I went. I did that so I could get money to go to school. And a few years later, a few more pro fights later, I ended up graduating with a degree in physics and mathematics from Duquesne University. And I have that. And while I was doing that, I self-published my first book and then self-published my second book. That one, my second book is the one I'm most proud of. That's a um, a guide for people who are going through sobriety because I'm coming up on 8 years sober. Well, not coming up. I have 8 years sober. Coming up on 9 years this year, and I wrote that book to help people, and I released it on my fifth anniversary. And I've been doing all this really promote myself, build my brand, writing articles. I found out today we have 164 articles on my site. Really proud of that because I've been writing for 10 years. And so people have been discovering my thing through my writing, through my social media. And then through wonderful things like this podcast, someone will find me and be like, "Oh, you're cool. I like what you have to say." And that's pretty much me in a nutshell, man. I was a fighter, and then I went and did physics, and that combination really fascinates a lot of people. I've been writing on the internet for 10 plus years, 2 self-published books. I'm actually working on 2 more. I spent all day working on some fiction. Tomorrow to be nonfiction, and I play a lot of chess. We were talking today about chess and all, and I'm a strong enough chess player. I need to get better, but
I
that's
mean,
me. Nah.
you sound like you have a chess coach. I'm like, I'm not even. I play for fun. You play for
Oh
sport.
yeah, well, here's the thing, man. Like it's weird. I always tell people I don't have any real hobbies, and that's not true. My only true hobby, I like watching movies, but everything else I do, I try to do and get better. So I'm not just playing chess casually. I'm studying chess. I got chess books. I have a chess table behind me. You can probably see it in the camera, so I can sit down and like work through positions and try to get better. And it wasn't always that way. I just mainly because I didn't have resources or time. Once I had both, I was like, oh, chess is something I really want to get better at. So it's something I do in my not even in my free time. I designate time and money to be better at chess. And it's a cool hobby because it's pure. Like nobody cares if I'm good at chess. I know that. Like I'll never be good enough to where someone will care in the chess community, but I'm good enough to where like I care and I love it and I have a good time with it.
I think it's one thing I noticed about you is that you move with passion no matter what it is, and like it even plays through your chess game. You're like, yeah, I don't really have any hobbies, but if I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it the right way.
Yeah, because like I'm really aware of how much time I have left, if that makes sense. Like I don't know exactly how much time I have left. What I do know is it's not forever. And furthermore, the closer I get to the end, the less capable I'm going to be. Like I know that my physical body won't be able to do all the things it can do now. It can't do all the things it could do 10 years ago, right? Now it's not as much of a drop off, but there's one that one notices. And my cognitive abilities will suffer the same decline and eventually I'll go back to dust. So in the meantime, I need to use that time wisely and I need to use it in a way that's going to make me happy. So one of the big things I learned and figured out, especially wasting my 20s, where you really care about what other people think and you want to fit in, is that none of that stuff is going to make you happy. None of those people are going to matter. What's going to matter is how I feel at the end of the day. So let me pick some things that's going to make me feel good. I've loved playing chess. Like I like chess. It makes me feel cool. It's a good battle. I get to think. It's fun. I like movies. I like my girl. I like my friends. I like traveling. I like eating like quality food. So I really focus on what matters to me, almost ruthlessly at this point. And that's a really good quality. I think everyone should focus on what matters to them ruthlessly, to the point where they cut out people, they turn down opportunities that on paper probably look good, but it's not in alignment with what's important to you. Because I think the worst thing, I think the only thing worse than like being limited, like, and I've been limited where you don't have time, you don't have money, there are things you want to do, is where you have to do a bunch of other stuff for the illusion of freedom. It's one thing when I'm making $10 an hour and and I want to go on a trip and I'm like, goodness, I wish I could do that. It's a totally different story when I find something that's going to pay me 150 grand a year, but I effing hate it.
Mhm.
In this situation, I am in the 150 grand a year situation. I am like, it's golden handcuffs, I think is the word. They is the phrase they say. Because it's really hard for a person to walk away from that. But when you ain't got nothing, everything is a come up. You got something to strive towards in a way. a process, a goal. When you at a comfortable spot, and I think you see that a lot, man. I think when you're in the middle, there's a lot of malaise because you ain't trying to fall off, but it's too risky to take and make moves to fulfill a passion, to justify even a salary drop or a pay drop, even though it will make you happier, man. People get addicted to the material very easily.
So let's find your passion. What helps people find their passion as a whole? And I kind of want to brush along this too because I read one. I love that you used to write too because I suck at writing. I hate writing.
Used to, man. I still write.
No. I know. But I suck at writing and I hate it and it drives me nuts. And I look at you and you're like you're writing all the time. So like, is it one thing I like about all of us here is that we all grew up in the ghetto.
Oh, yeah.
We all grew up in the ghetto. We all grew up from oppressed positions, and we overcome that. So let's kind of talk about that because we might bring up a crack joke here or there, but the hustle of the crack.
Yeah, like man, I'm from. I got the project stamp of approval, man. Like no one ever can question my origins because they are as thorough as they come, man. I grew up in 2 housing projects. I lived there until I was 18. I remember when I left and didn't come back to the projects, that is. But you see a lot of stuff in that environment, and you got to figure out how you're going to deal with it. You can laugh a little or you can cry a lot, I always used to say. And for me, I just chose to laugh maybe a little more than a little, like the crackhead hustle joke. Man, I'm a jokes inspired by things I've seen and experienced. Now, at this point, I've kind of modified them with my imagination because I like to have fun. And now I've been out the projects longer than I was in the projects. I just turned 37 last week, So like, that's a big deal, And if I don't tell you, you can't guess that I'm from the projects, right? I mean, you might like look at me being black and like, where you're probably from, like, but that's like racist, But without hearing me, if you hear me talk and see how I move, you're not gonna guess that I'm from there. I'm removed, and then that's an evolution of itself to be able to leave the neighborhood and a lot of the things the neighborhood instills in you behind. But that whole thing, I just, I'm really grateful for it, really, in the weirdest way possible. I know that sounds odd, but I couldn't imagine my life if I had grew up like in the middle class or like grown up in a stable home, because a lot of the things that I believe are gifts now, legitimate gifts that have given me an advantage and allowed me to help and connect with other people. I know I got those from having to grow up and endure and deal with that. I wouldn't have gotten them any other way. I always say that environment teaches you things that you can only learn. Like you can't be taught how to be street smart. You can't be taught how to read people. You got to learn that. You got to learn it by failing and suffering and then going, okay, I understand that. Let me do it now. And with a really powerful negative feedback mechanism. It's like boxing. One of the cool things about fighting, which is there's almost nothing left on this planet like it. When you make a mistake, you get corrected, and you get corrected instantly. And you don't tend to make the same mistake twice. And if you do, you're definitely not going to make it a third time because you won't be around long enough. The sport is going to injure you out. It's going to run you out. Very similar dynamic in the way I grew up. You don't make mistakes dealing with people too often because they're painful. And if you make them too often, well, then you got a problem. The younger you are, the more they're going to excuse you. But you get to a certain point where you know who's who, how to talk, and you know what certain things mean, what certain colors mean, right? You know all that. So it ain't you're not excused anymore. And it's unfortunate. And I would never wish anyone the misfortune of growing up there. I never put my kids through it, for example. But I know that it shaped me and and let's not get it twisted. This is not survivor's bias talking here. You know, I understand that I had to deal with a lot of things and traumas and all that for me to fully integrate those lessons into a functional person. So I wasn't just walking around like a damn psycho. But a lot of people don't do that. That's where you got a lot of people that end up not getting out of that environment, ending up in prison, that kind of thing. So that's my thoughts on my origin. I think about it a lot, but it's been it's a very useful tool, and it's one of those things that it's an advantage you can't buy either. It's not like there ain't no pill you can take to know how to talk to people in the street.
And that's powerful, man. I used to box myself for a little while when I was young, and that's one of the cleanest analogies I've ever heard. It's like, yeah, if you make a mistake, then you immediately get corrected. Yeah, so it's like if you see that overhand right coming or that left hook coming just once, you're like, you're
Yeah.
gonna look now. You're looking out for it. Like you ain't gonna get me with that one again. I love how that applies to business.
Oh, for sure. And you know, one of the cool things I think about this in boxing, there's like levels that like separate people out in fighting. And one of the best, I think, real world things that ports over from the fight from the ring is to be a good defender in boxing. It's not about missing or making the guy miss. It's about making the guy miss, but getting as close as possible to hitting you, because you have to capitalize on the time it takes for him to get back in a position to be offensive. And the more space you have between your opponent and you, the longer it takes. And so your first instinct is to, you know, make the guy miss by a mile, you'll be safe. But the reality is you're not safe. At the very least, you're not optimally safe. So you have to get comfortable being very, you know, sitting in a pocket and slipping punches that if you slip them by not by too little, they're gonna graze you, cut you, or hurt you. But you want to make them just miss, so you're right there to deliver maximum damage. And that's the thing that separates. I mean, you see it. You see it in the amateur circuit. You see it in the pro. You know what the next level guys who are comfortable making guys barely miss, and guys who aren't. And if you're not comfortable making a guy barely miss, you're gonna run out of energy trying to make them trying to defend, and then you're gonna suffer a lot more. It's just
Yeah, I think
I always think about that's one of my favorite parts of the fight game is that, because that's a mental thing. It's not like who's tougher, it's who's got control over their nervous system. That's what fighting does. It puts you in control of that flinch. It puts you in control of fear. It puts you in control of anxiety, because you can't be effective in fight. You can't be effective in the ring if you have all those other things going on in your nervous system, many of which are automatic and are designed to protect you. So you really have to develop a certain mental strength to be able to do that. Same with like, I mean, I think about a lot of the workouts I went through, the day in, day out, day in, day out. A lot of those workouts, man, that is, your body is not designed for that. But you push it, you overcome that thing that's telling you to stop, that's telling you to quit. Not a lot of people can do it, and that's what about fighters are the best people, man. Because if you can go through a fight training for more than a year, you really are something. Especially if you get in the ring, because a lot of people don't realize it's a very unique place in the ring. There are there are only two other people in the ring: your opponent, the guy that's trying to hurt you, and the ref, who is an amateur, is really there to ref. As a pro, he's not, I wouldn't call him your friend, but he's not exactly against you, but he ain't in there to help you either. He's just like a body, you know. And so you got all these people looking at you and just you. It's not like a team sport where there's other people to divert the attention. And that takes a lot of metal. It just does. It's a great thing. I'm so happy I decided to fight. Like there were not a million. There weren't many other things I could have done, and I think the best decision to this day is deciding at an older age too to go and start fighting.
How
Well, that's
how has
good, man.
how has fighting helped you in entrepreneurship?
Ah, man, shit. Well, for starters, I'm not afraid of failing. That's a great. Dude, you gotta understand, like, now because I've learned and I've had enough success to where I'm not like people think. Okay, so this cracks me up. People think entrepreneurship like automatically makes you have more money than other people. Like, bro, I would and many times wish I could have because my introduction into this lifestyle was kind of gradual. Or, I mean, not gradual. The opposite. It was kind of forced, like baptism by fire. There's not a lot of buffer room, what they call it, runway. When you initially come in here, if you don't come in with like where you go save up some money, so you're good. But when you fight, because most fighters don't have the luxuries of like health insurance, which they should have. You get injured, you're just in bad shape. Most fighters are broke. That's why they're fighting because of and there's not a lot of support either for the fight game, believe it or not. So you get used to dealing with a very lonely, relatively high risk environment from the jump with like real consequences. I mean, like I've been poor, and that never really bugged me. What bugged me, what always frightened me or worried me, it didn't worry me when it should have, by the way, is getting hurt and not being able to go to the ER. There were more than a few times that happened. But you figure it out. You learn how resilient the human body can be. And it's cool. This is so easy from a psychological perspective. Now I still have to go and do the work, but once you establish yourself, then the next the next challenge is a sense of consistency and creating, and you really have a workman-like approach to what you do. And I think a lot of people fall in love with this idea of entrepreneurship being this panacea for all the ills of the workplace. The reality is, and there's a quote I'll use to sum up what this is really like, is that entrepreneurs are the only people who will work 80 hours to avoid working 40. That's what this is like. And if you're not prepared for that, you don't get the benefit, right? You don't get to the other side where it's going. I think about that, like we're fighting, like so many years of fighting for nothing, or really forget fighting for nothing, paying to fight, basically. When you factor in fees and gear and time, you're really paying to fight. I'm one of the few fighters who, with a career of my length, realistically broke even. I probably did a little better than broke even, especially with the last 2 years of my amateur career. But the point is that it's a lot of upfront hustle. A lot of upfront hustle with no guarantee, a lot of risk, but you keep doing because you believe in yourself and what you're trying to create, what you're trying to do. And one day you get there and you realize that you're already there up here where it matters. It just took the universe a little while to catch up. And I feel like that's the exact same way it works in entrepreneurship, working for yourself, online hustling, whatever you want to call it, whatever word we use interchangeably, because I've always wanted to write and always wanted to be a creator, and I've always had the stories and the perspectives. It was just I have to go out and just work. It's just work. It's amazing how many opportunities come your way when you just go do a thing every day and do it well. Um, and people don't realize that they want a guarantee. They want to see I do this will happen. They want a deterministic relationship between the process and the outcome, and it doesn't work that way. And the better thing is, the less likely it works that way. It's probabilistic. Probabilistic means there's a 6 out of 10 chance it's going to work. That means you're going to have to do the same thing 10 times, 6 of those, it should work, right? But probably not, because each individual event, it's not like it has a memory. It's not like each event has memory, right? When I say memory, it's not like the third one remembers that the second or the first one didn't hit. No, still 6 out of 10, right? You just keep doing it. But when you get it done, you get it done. All you got to do is be right one time. I made most of my money last year on 2 events. That it's not like I was only doing 2 events. You know, and when I say events, I mean like anything from speaking to releasing a product to consulting, right? That's what I mean. Now what's funny is this year, it's already shaping up like it's going to be way ahead of last year, like way ahead. But that's kind of the cumulative effort of every single thing I've been doing for the past 11 years. It'll be, you know, from writing on Twitter to build my mailing list, to send out emails, to self-publishing. You just keep doing this stuff, and you don't know how it's going to turn out. You just know that it eventually will become something. And if it doesn't, there's still a great process and a great fun to be had. And that's what you got to embrace, the process.
Yeah, the process. A lot of people, they think, like you said, it's all fun and games and it's easy. Happy how and let's talk about pivoting, because a lot of people think their first one is a brilliant idea and then it falls flat in their face and they have to pivot.
So yeah, they don't want to see their baby die.
They don't want to see their baby
die. You gonna realize something when you decide to. Okay, so here's the cool thing about, I mean, my favorite thing about this space is that you get to touch reality directly. You're not shielded by a large market or an amount of time or product cycle time or something like that. Like, no, you create something, your audience, the market is going to tell you if you got a good idea or a bad one. And if you want to be married to bad ideas, go do something else. Because you're going to pay for it here. And you're going to pay for it quick. You're going to be like, man, why ain't I selling? Well, something's not right. Now, if you can, you know, put your ego aside, put your attachments aside and go, okay, I'm doing something wrong. What am I doing wrong? Can somebody help me? Because people are always willing to help. That's one thing I've learned. If you just ask for help, people will help you. They won't help you if you're arrogant. They won't help you if you're an asshole. But if you ask sincerely, they will help you. If you go, I don't know what's wrong. I'm trying to do this. I see you've done this. Can you help me? And you get so much feedback. But you have to be willing to admit that you're incorrect. Your approach was wrong. If you can do that, you're going to be golden. If you cannot do that, you better be lucky. Because nobody comes in that is knowing what to do. I describe it like imagine I put you in a maze. And I don't tell you it's a maze, though. I just tell you got to get to the other end. And you're like, all right, cool, big deal. I'll just follow what I see. Except I tell you I'm going to turn the lights off. And so now you're like, oh, okay. But you don't have a choice. And then on top of that, you go, well, maybe I want to do it. I'm like, well, I don't care what you want to do. I got some dogs out behind you. Those dogs being your bills and your rent and you know, your need for food, that kind of thing. And so you walk and you're figuring this maze out, and it takes you a long time, but you're committed because them dogs is behind you. They're not going to attack as long as you keep taking a step forward. That's how they're trained. They're not chasing you, but but you take a step back, that's the problem. And then you make it through the maze. And as a reward, I turn the light on, and you realize that it was a goddamn box. It wasn't a maze. It was just a box with only a border, 4 walls. You thought it was a maze because you couldn't see and you'd never been in there before. And I told you there was a bunch of problems there. So your brain put them there and you moved around. And you have to navigate those on your own. You can't, no one can tell you it's easy. No one can tell you it's hard. You go, you figure it out, you walk through, you get back and you make it through and you go, oh, wow, this is something else. I don't claim to have it all figured out. What I have figured out has makes me look at people who don't have it figured out and who have no interest in learning, going, wow, that must really be cool. Like because if you love your job, this message is not for you. You know, and I appreciate you because you chances are you're doing something that is vital to society. Because at the end of the day, I'm just a guy that says cool stuff and people pay me money. That's not vital. Like if there's a war and they draft me, I mean, I can run pretty fast and I can throw shit, and I can shoot because I was in the army. But like, I'm not useful. You ever see Defiance where he's like bringing everybody together and he's like, "What are your skills?" And he goes, "Oh, I was a watchmaker." So they make him start working on radios because he tinkered and stuff. You know, I don't have any like crazy skills like that. But my point is that if you don't enjoy your job, if you are not vital, you don't feel like you're vital, if you're not out there flying planes or driving ambulance or operating people, there's a better way. There's a more fulfilling way. Whether you decide to go after it, I really believe ambition, like and the appetite for risk that's normally distributed, most of the population will not do that, and that's probably good. Like probably because I like if I decide to have my food delivered to my home, that somebody is going to go drive, the Uber delivery, Instacart. That's what it's called. Instacart's great, man. Uber Eats, that shit is robbery. But
Everybody has their position and role in society.
and yes, and you can change yours if you don't like it, but that change is unbelievably terrifying. Yeah. That's the best part about coming up from nothing. You don't know, like I didn't know my position. Right? No one told me my position coming up. No one told me what religion to do. No one told me how relationships should look. And that's all for better or worse. I'm not saying it's always gravy. I'm just saying that no one told me what it should be. So I get to figure that out. And in many ways, that's a benefit. In some ways, that's a problem. But in this particular case, that's a very good thing.
Yeah, you get to your experiences shape who you can be, because most people, it's the phraseology that hard times create hard men.
Yeah.
Yep. And we kind of create our own future when you're forced to do stuff that not a lot of people are forced to do.
Yeah, it's cool, man. I love it. Because now I love it being me. I mean, I think about life 15 years ago. I mean, when I'm in the throes of all the problems and all things, and it seems miserable. And it is miserable. I'm not even gonna say it seems. It is. It sucks. It really sucks when you start comparing yourself and start looking around. But you know what doesn't make it suck as much? And this is kind of a complete pivot. You gotta have good people around you, man. When you have good friends and good relationships, I really I am of the belief that other people are the most important thing, period. And the sooner you realize that, the sooner you can make moves to put good people around you and not jeopardize those relationships. And Jada Kiss, I don't know if you know Jada Kiss, from a rapper from I guess 2000s, 90s. He has a great lyric in a song. He says, "I'd rather be broke together than rich alone." That sums up the whole deal. Some of your best memories are going to be, or some of our best memories, and anybody listening, if you're like in that age range, some of your best memories in life are going to be when you and the homies are splitting rent, trying to figure out if you got enough money to pay the heat, but you got ramen and tuna on some prison shit. Like, you're going to be like, it's a good time.
That's funny, man. I never thought about it that way.
Yeah. Dude, think about it this way. I'm about to tell you the most terrifying thing that you could imagine. You achieve everything. You got $1 million. You in great shape. Your house is beautiful. But you don't have any friends. Nobody gives a shit about you. Nobody takes your calls. You got no friends on social media. Girls ignore you. Your friends always got something else to do instead of hanging out. That's miserable. Flip it the other way. You don't have nothing. You live in a shack. You got roaches for roommates. Your room, your groceries are all the food value brand. Your shoes got holes in them. You don't know how you're gonna pay the bills. But you know that every Friday night you and your buddies are gonna get together and you're gonna have dinner. And you know that Sunday you go to church with some people. And you might not believe what they say, but you know these people, you've grown up with these people, these are your friends, these are your family your whole life. And every day there's somebody talking to you. You check and hang out with your mom, you got your cousins, you got your friends, you got a network of people that you might not have material anything. Like forget not having a car, man. You barely got a bus pass, but you got people. You got people, you're good. The trick is to have both, right? Everyone wants both. But
so, and this is my next question: how do you balance that? Because that I totally understand that. Like rich people, that they totally build themselves a wall around themselves where they think they're the shit, and then nobody looks up to them because their ego is so large that they're so inflated that nobody can even speak to them. So how do you find balance to? And that kind of goes back to your partnership thing. I think that's amazing. We do the same thing. Our whole thing in our brand is make people rich around us because we're trying to have rich homies with the party, you know. Yeah. So how do you balance a relationship where you provide value in different ways?
Well, the cool thing, or rather the first thing, which is the coolest thing, is to remember that you ain't nothing, man. Like I've had to learn this stuff the hard way. So I'm not speaking from like, oh, it's all been all good and gravy. Like, nah, man, you make mistakes, you learn, you figure it out. But I got good friends who have forgiven me and been patient with me. Likewise, I'm patient with them. Is we all learn. That's part of humanity. We're all learning from one another. And what I say to say, you have to not take yourself so seriously. The biggest joke in the universe is people taking themselves seriously enough to think that what they do matters. Like, bro, the universe is 13.8 billion years old. You're going to live for like maybe 100, maybe. Nothing you do matters except to you and a few people who 150 years, there will be no one. That's like the limit. 150 years, there'll be no one who directly ever interacted with you. And so it's always remembering how insignificant you are. When you remember how insignificant you are, it really takes the importance out of things that make you sacrifice other people's feelings and emotions. You remember what you're mad about, and you go, well, what am I angry about? Okay, did it hurt me? Did it take something from me? Like you know, even to this day, the only thing I really get angry about are things that take my time. And if I perceive it to be a waste of my time, but like now, for example, if I ever argue with my fiance, right, she's been around for 10 years. This is important. If I ever argue with her, it's because I feel like I've got to add time in the future. I could if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, whatever, and I admit I'm wrong because that keeps the relationship fine. But I'm not arguing just to win an argument. I'm not arguing just to argue. I bring up things that protect my investment of time into this relationship, into this person. It brings me so much joy. It's the most important relationship of my life. And then when I have kids, it'll be the most. It's the same thing. They're gonna be very important humans to nurture and go. Okay, we're going to make sure you're all right, but let's not waste time on insignificant stuff because I ain't got a lot of time to be here. I got to make sure you continue. Same with my close friends. What am I going to fight with my close friends about at this point? What is so important? And you have to always ask yourself that. What is so important? If it's important enough, then you have to align your life to make sure that people in it get it. Because you can't waste time trying to convince other people about your values. It's not a good use of time. Much better to just cut that relationship if it really is that important. But what you'll find is most things aren't that important. You just take yourself too seriously.
I really like what you're saying because I'm the same way. Like literally anything that I'm very pacifist because like doesn't that something make you mad? I'm like, why am I getting mad? What can I do to address that concern? And what can I do to make a difference? They don't care what I say. If I have my opinion, that makes me internally physically mad about it. But I can't fix that outstanding correction that I can't physically do anything about. So why let it affect and change my spirit? Because this is all I got.
Yeah, like by the way, I mean, this is one of the main reasons why you want to make money. And you ain't got to make a lot of money, but you want to make enough. Like I don't think I have a lot of money. Certainly some will disagree. But the people I hang out with will probably agree. You ain't got that much, right? But I have enough to where I don't have to worry about most things that would cause me stress or detract from my time on the planet. You know, I take like health, most important, because you know, what do they say? A healthy man has a million wishes, a sick man has one. That is to be healthy. You remember that, you take care of your health. Boom, checkpoint, taken care of. Everything else is a matter of my relationships or make sure my bills are paid. All right, I talked about how I deal with the relationships with people. Now we talk about, you know, what having enough money to live in my means and go places and do things I want to do. And if I can't do things I want to do, at the very least have enough to eat good food and be healthy. Right? And make sure it never comes up as a reason to jeopardize the other two things, the relationships and my health, because no one wants to live in a war zone where your cortisol is sky high because you hear gunshots every night. All right. Likewise, you don't want to get into a fight with your girl because like the rent's due and you and
hey, that's its own war zone.
Yeah, that's a whole new thing. Or you owe your friends money or something like that. So you once you take care of these little things, everything is done to increase the quality of your time here, your short precious time. I wish sometimes I feel like, I mean, maybe not reincarnated, but like a lot of times I step out and I like look at people and all the things they're arguing and fighting over. I'm like, do you realize that like you don't have a lot of time? And it's just not, and yeah, you're not getting more of it. Like it's not like there's some kind of deal you can strike. But like even if they manage to extend our lifespan by 10x, that's so little in the grand scheme. Like so little. You don't have a lot of time. So I try to remember that, and that's like one of my messages that I reiterate, and that's why I'm the way I am. We go back and talk about my story a little more. There's like pre-2013 me and post-2013 me. Okay. Pre-2013 me is like broke, alcoholic, chasing girls, wasting time. Okay. I called December 28th, 2013, my second birthday. That's when my first day of sobriety is, right? It's my sobriety date. After that, that's when the Ed Latta, what everyone knows about, really comes into form. But what a lot of people aren't aware of, unless they were like around that time and tracking it, or they sit in and listen to stories like this, is that there was a period from like 2014 to 2016 where I was simultaneously, this is where people get confused when I tell my timeline. They're like, no, this was all at the same time. Pro fighting in school, and not just in school for some BS, but physics and math, right? In the army, drilling, doing that. Working, because you don't make anything fighting. And that's 4 real major things I'm doing. In my job, I worked at a bank and then I had an internship. That's 4 major things right there. I didn't cover my social life. I didn't cover my romantic life, but I still had to maintain those. But really, my social life effectively died. I think there was a period I didn't see my friends like for 2 years. No, not 2 years quite, but like outside of texting and messaging, I didn't really go out. because I was like, I realized how much time I had wasted. And I was trying to get it back to put myself in a position to enjoy life. And I think I've done a great job of that. And but that experience of really pulling myself quickly on all fronts up showed me how valuable time is. And you just can't waste it on things that don't matter.
Yeah, I agree, man. I think one of the biggest things that's I think accelerated my business career for one is to not take myself too seriously because I'm 40 now, and I used to be like that before too. You know, I was always a jokester, but I used to take my everything very seriously. And I think at the same time when you can not take your things as too serious, but also managing your time. So I'm quick to end a relationship that's not bearing fruit, a friendship that's not bearing fruit, a business relationship that's not bearing fruit. Like I'm quick to end those because it's like, okay, then I don't want to be mean, but I don't want to allocate any minutes to that.
Yep.
Right. And that's kind of my accounting now that I'm, I guess, thinking about the most. First, you're staring at your bank account when you're trying to get to a certain spot in life. And then once you're there, you're like, man, I'm running out of minutes here. So I'm going to start to be a lot more careful with them.
That back.
Yeah. I want to start allocating my minutes to more things that are more important to me, like hanging out with my parents, before they have to check out or before my kids grow up, or just things like that become way more important. And that's what I think about that a lot, man. And that does kind of reflects in my business as well.
Yeah, we live in the best time in history. I really believe that. I believe that because we have, for the first time, maybe ever, the opportunity for the average person to create a work life. I wouldn't even call it a balance. But I guess that's the phrase. That's the best phrase I have for it in my lexicon. We have a work-life balance that you can do things on the internet. You can do high-value tasks and then spend time with your family. You don't have to sacrifice your entire day and then miss your kids growing up. You don't have to miss the important stuff. Now, that's a path. Not everyone takes it, and I don't think everyone should take it, obviously. But that path and that choice is available. That's all that matters, that the choice is available.
Yeah, that's huge. That's huge. I agree. I agree. We're definitely in a definitely a pivotal time in history where people definitely have the ability to create anything. You can create anything right now, and nothing's stopping you but your. We talked about earlier your mental capacity.
All you got to do, if you want it, and it ain't easy. It's just a different route. Everything looks easy after you've been doing it for a while with some success.
Yeah.
Like I can't like imagine looking at what's a good example? Like LeBron James and be like, man, basketball a little easy, man. You make it a little easy, but like, fam, this is like all I've been doing for the past 30 years. But like at this point, if it's not easy, something's wrong. I've been wasting time, and still developing. And I think people, what's the old saying, man? A lot of people, they want to compare their page one to somebody else's page 30. It's like it's not the same. You starting out, it is going to not be fun. Or maybe it will be fun. I have no idea. What I can tell you is that to scale, if you want to have the same results as somebody who's ahead of you by like 5-10 years in the same field, you're gonna be sorely disappointed.
Yeah. So let's kind of talk about our traveling. So I really want to travel more. I went to Fiji myself for my honeymoon when I got married.
Oh, nice, man.
I haven't left the country since then, but like leaving the country opened my eyes to the real world, because I feel like us as Americans, like everything is a certain way, and then you leave the country and you're like, what? Yep. It doesn't even feel real at that point. But let's talk about traveling and how it opens your perspective on life as a whole in general.
So I've always been interested in traveling, right? As far back as I can remember, like when I was a first grader, I took out a book from the library on Japan, like a bunch. And now I have I don't want to say zero interest, but Japan is not my number one destination to go to anymore. It's like no reason to just. But my point is that I've always been interested in stuff, and then after that it was Cuba. So I just always wanted to do that. Thing is, when you grow up like how I grew up, there's not a lot of opportunity for that kind of thing. I didn't leave the country for the first time in my life until I was 19. I had a little bit of money because my dad died, and I got life insurance. And I had a friend from Mexico and was like, hey, do you want to come down and visit me in Mexico? And I was like, heck yeah, man. So I went and got to check out Mexico. And that was the first time and the last time. The first time I left the country and the last time I leave it again until, let me make sure I get this right, until like 2015. We drove, me and my fiance, we drove to Quebec City, Quebec, which is 2 hours north of Montreal. Closest thing to Europe on this continent. Beautiful. And we made that drive from Pittsburgh, PA. This was a 14-hour day, by the way, driving. And I'm not gonna be an a-hole and be like, you gotta drive. So I mean, I drove the whole way. We were having trouble sleeping. And I just woke up at like 4 in the morning. I was like, yeah, you want to just get on the road, go. I'll drink coffee. We'll be okay. So we went and did that, and it was fun. And we drove for a number of reasons. One, because I was still broke. I wasn't as broke as I was before, but I was still broke. And we're fortunate, or I'm fortunate. She's just doing what she does for a living. I'm fortunate that I'm with her. She's involved in booking high-end luxury immersive travel, and is a travel agent, very good at her job. And what she used to do that was her part-time job, but she did during her full-time job while we were at this point where we drove to Quebec. She was the assistant director for international admissions out of college, and so they'd send her around her recruits. So she had a bunch of like hotel rooms. So like the hotel rooms were covered, and it was cool, right? And I got to see just like a different experience. And going to Quebec City, I was like, I actually remember this. I said, because there's this beautiful hotel. You look it up. It's called the Chateau Frontenac, and it's right in the I'm gonna get this geography wrong. The St. Lawrence River in the northern Quebec province, and it's beautiful, man. It looks like something out of Castlevania. This is nice castle. But when we went, and that's an old wall city. First time we went, we stayed in this Hilton, and we're just looking at it. And I said, we're gonna stay there one day. Trust me on that. It's great, right? And we're not gonna drive up when we do it. Save that story for a minute. But it was a good experience. I got to see stuff and do stuff. I think we saw The Hobbit there, and it was funny, man, because she speaks French, and we actually ordered the version française. That's what all the tickets say, BF, version française. And we're like, oh, I don't speak French. You had to explain to them in French that I don't speak French. So we're all good. After that, though, that was like my only trip for a while. And then Christmas of December 2016, we spent a week in Paris for Christmas. That was my first time across the ocean. And then and she had saved up all these points from her job as the admissions counselor. So we flew first class there and back. Let me tell you something. This was smart on her end, give me this gift. Because now I can't fly regularly. It didn't mess me up. I don't know if you ever flown first class.
She ruined you.
Yeah, right. Oh, completely. But I'm not a cheap guy, but it's just I sat in the middle seat one time on a plane. I will never do that again. And it wasn't my choice. But this is all because we went there, but that was the last trip we went on where I was because I wasn't broke, but because I paid for my part of the trip because we booked it in the summer when I was still fighting. And I was signed with Rock Nation. I was getting paid real money for fights, and then I was unsigned at that point, broke. And I was like, oh, we'll go, and but I was kind of struggling, and did the triple credit. But that experience being in Paris, seeing the museum, like, because what we did, our sister got us a museum card, because all these museums in Paris, you couldn't see them in one day, couldn't even see them in a week for real, unless you was like really hustling. But we saw a lot of them. We saw about 25% of the museums, and being there, enjoying the food, seeing the play. I said, this is awesome. That was the first time I got a deposit from Amazon, because I had the self-published Two Little Things. They weren't like my book, but the way Amazon pays you out, they don't pay you more. They don't pay you if you don't do more than $100 that month. But they got to empty their accounts at the end of the year. So it was like December 29th or 30th. I got a deposit for like $430 while I'm walking along like the Champs-Élysées or something like that. And I was like, yo, this is cool. I could get used to this, getting paid, being away. Then I came back. I took a year off from fighting. I put a lot of time into my website growing. And when we went to Portugal. This wasn't when I was living over there. We just went to visit. We went to Portugal that year for Christmas. We brought in the New Year in Belém, which is right in Lisbon, this little neighborhood. And that time though, I had made the money. I had made the money to be over there. At the time, I bought a cool coat. I actually bought 2 coats that I have and everything, and we had a great time. And I said, this is awesome. I'm seeing places, and I love it, and this is the life I want to live. So those, that story, those are my trips to that point, to 2017. In 2018 though, Colombia, Morocco. We go to Canada. Oh, right. Get to that. Colombia, Morocco, and France. We went in France and Netherlands. And was there anywhere else? Can't remember. But on 2019, we went back to Quebec City. This time we flew back, and this time we stayed in that hotel. Because at this point now, because by May 2018, that was the first 5K month, 5-figure month that I had on the internet. It was actually the month I graduated, and it was significantly more than just like 10,000. But it was the first month that I had done it. I was like, wow! I was like, oh, I've arrived. Here's a milestone. And so I'm doing these things that I wanted to do, and I can go see these places I wanted to see. And one of the things I said, we're gonna go back, really gonna enjoy it. It was great. It was like, because up there, man, because it's closer to the poles. Yeah. It's like eternal Christmas, man, in the walled city. Well, not eternal, but it's longer. Like we didn't go. We went up like January 5th, still covered in snow, still a bunch of sand and stuff up and all that. It was great. It's a Catholic area because it's like descendant of the French. It was a great time, beautiful. And I got to see some all-inclusive resorts. And last year, I spent 3 times on those 3 cruises last year, and just seeing stuff. Mexico, go to Mexico. Actually, crazy piece of information that I just found out. In 2021, the most visited country in the world was Mexico, because it was one of the only countries not like making you go jump through hoops to come through with COVID. Wow. And I was like, oh, I guess that's true. We did go to Mexico like twice, but like, yeah, it's awesome. I feel very grateful that I get to see all this stuff and continue to see all this stuff. In 2 weeks, I'll be in Hungary. It was my first time. Oh, and then I was in Poland too. I'm thinking all these places, and so many more to come
to see. The perspective is amazing.
Yeah, it shows you. Like there's just little things you don't think about. And I consider myself to be an open-minded, deliberate thinker. But there's little things you never think about. Like in Colombia, they hear me talk. And all of a sudden the kids shout out mi color, because they're pretty much a black people down there. But they black people that speak Spanish. Then and blacks travel so infrequently relative to whites in this country. They're not used to hearing about a brother speak English.
Oh, okay.
They see somebody like me, they're gonna assume I speak Spanish, but they hear me speaking, they go mi color, because they're like, oh, you're like us, but you speak English. right? It's one of the crazy things. Other flip side of this, right? In Poland is like white. I mean, like it is a white place, man. And when you're there, you know, their thing is not like their racism. We put that in air quotes. It was like they assume you're an African immigrant till you open your mouth, and then you're an American, and there ain't no it's your nationality first, then your race, and when you're American, that trumps everything. This is the cool thing. We don't realize how lucky we are to speak English. I lost my bag in the Chopin airport, which is Warsaw's airport, right? Named after Frederick Chopin, who's not French, by the way. He's Polish, right? And they named an airport after him. But I lost my bag, and I go to deal with my bag being lost. And Polish is not a popular language, nor is it particularly easy to understand. And it's only spoken in one place, Poland. All right. I go to check my bag out. There's somebody in front of me dealing with it, and they got an issue because they speak Spanish. There's more people on the planet that speak Spanish than English. They don't speak Spanish in Poland, but they all know English. Anybody under 40 knows English. And that's so it was a good deal. And I was very, very fortunate, man. It was either Polish, Russian, or English. Pick one, because of, their history of World War II. And you get to see that. On the flip side, like being in Portugal, right? There is not really a concept, or so I thought, not really a concept of race, because everybody's all mixed and stuff. But don't you know, we walked in, a picture just came up in my memories. There was a full-on Black Lives Matter rally going on in Rocio, which is down in central Lisbon. Wow. And it was crazy there. I was like, wow. But they were holding up the flags of Angola and Mozambique, which are the two countries that Portugal like colonized, and where their Black people come from. Everybody's Black people come from somebody someplace different, man. And so it's cool just seeing all this crazy, interesting stuff, man. And really, it really makes you realize that the American experience is not the only thing. It's not even the best thing. It's just a thing.
It's just a thing. Yeah. You really realize how insignificant you are as an individual and as an American, because the world is
absolutely. Look, man, this whole people don't know what shit was going on. Yes, there are people who are trying to come to America, right? Like still. There's a lot of people who are super content with their street shops and their culture and everything about it, and they don't want anything to do with us. They don't hate us, they're just happy where they are. Not everybody's trying to come to America and want the American values to be put on them.
Yeah, that's it. Let's talk about online money, because online money is a game changer that not many people experience, but once they experience it, they're like, man, I don't want to sell physical products. I don't want to work for time ever again.
Oh man, check it out. Every now and then somebody will ask me about physical products, and I'm like, I mean, I guess you could do that. I can't help you. I don't know anything about that. I have lived a life, and I continue to live a life that will always make it so that my intellectual property is where the money comes from. And that creates a really interesting situation, because for starters, there's no what's the word I want?
There's no cap or
no expenses.
Deliverability, all that stuff.
For example, people, if I talk about my revenue to somebody, or not my revenue, if I talk about my income to somebody, they go, "Oh, is that revenue?" I'm like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Why are they asking me that? What else?" Oh, right, because people are here drop shipping, posting these screenshots when like 80% of it's revenue, because they got to spend money in ad acquisition and product, or product acquisition and ads. Nah, that's not the game I want to play. I will create a course teaching you how to. People don't realize, man. Like knowing how to do one thing well can change your entire life with the internet. I know how to do one thing better than average, like where I have a real competitive advantage, and that's right. and I love it too. Like you can't take away my love I have for crafting with words. All right. So even if you can outwork me with your product, with your software and the AI can, it's not it's not a labor of love. And on top of that, you, you have to be able to engage humans. So like that's like what I like doing, and that has created a great lifestyle for me. Like I gotta thank Twitter, man. I'm actually trying to get away from it. I actually did my first like email marketing deal. And it was surprising, man, because I was always like, why would I? Because I came into the game via Twitter. I was like, oh, this is great. Why would I ever like do this email marketing thing? Yeah, I did it once, and I'm like, I'm sleeping on something big here. So yeah, if you have any knowledge up here, if you have any knowledge in your head that you can share and that people will find useful and want to learn, you have the potential to change your life. And a lot of people think it's got to be something crazy or high end. I know dudes making money teaching people how prison work, like a prison themed workout, or how to survive in jail, or how to reintegrate in society. You know, you could teach anything. You got to brand yourself properly. I know God runs a group working with fathers. He's just a regular dude. It's not like he's super dad or something crazy. He's just a regular dude. But he decided to step up and assume that leadership role. And from there, he goes and helps other men be together. It's an amazing time to be alive. And if you have the gusto and you have a little bit of, between your ears, you can do all right for yourself.
I like the no one like, how did you get to where you are? And like, you take up that role. No one tells you what role to take. You just take it up. That's my role.
If you wait for other people, they're gonna tell you to stay in your lane. They're gonna be like, how dare you? Like, man, how dare you figure out how to make money without working? How dare you figure that out? That makes people mad. It doesn't make them mad. Okay, I don't think it makes them mad, but just imagine you spent your whole, like, especially for millennials, that's where it sucks, because you're a millennial, we're in the same age bracket. Yeah. You spend your whole 25 years being told you got to do it one way, and you do it that way, and you come out and you got a good life, and so you think, and then some kid come along, like literal kid.
Yep.
Talking trash on the internet, releases a product and earns your salary in a month, and you're like, what the, like, like, that would make me, like, okay, the type of person I am, it would motivate me, but I can see how that dynamic might infuriate a person.
Oh yeah.
You got
seeing all those memes go around right now, like with the NFTs.
Oh, exactly, right? Where like somebody buy some coins with a dog, and it don't even make sense, man. Now they millionaires. Like, it's just goofy. it's goofy, but it's just the world we're in now. Now, those are this luck, right? Even a broken clock is right twice a day. If you follow principles, there are real principles you can follow for social media, for the internet, that will have you living a good life. I was working with a guy, because every now and then I just do these I call them charity cases, man. Like, somebody messages me real polite, showing me they're doing the work, but they're just stuck. And I'm like, man, I may help you out with this and this, man. This issue here, we tweak this. Helping out a guy, man. Brother was trying to create this fighting game god, and he's got like legit like qualifiers, man. Like 4-time world champion in a fight game, in the fight, like competitive fighting. He's man in Tekken, which is not like an unknown thing. So I said, let's do this. Let's write about you here. Let's change this headline. And God was thankful, man. He made $1,000 in a week just posting this link like 3 times. And I said, there you go. Now that you done had a taste of it, you're not gonna be able to go back. Just so you know, man, it's like what the drug dealers used to do. They give you a hit for free, and then you got to come back, man. You stuck now. Got your soul.
That's hilarious, man. You give them a hit.
Yeah, you give them a little bit of a little hit of that freedom. Look, man, yeah. I'll tell you what. I will never forget. We as flying, because when we went to Morocco, we got a crazy good deal. We just had to drive to DC to take advantage of it. So we flew from Dulles to the Amsterdam airport, and then from Amsterdam down to Marrakesh. And between Amsterdam and Marrakesh, I sent off a tweet about the CBD oil I was selling, or I was affiliating for. It would be 30%, but it was a good price. We landed. I made like $4,000 in the air, yo. I don't like when you do stuff like that. Do you know how that changes your relationship with stuff? Like, I don't know how to have normal conversations with people, and this is not like I'm a balling kind of thing, like, because that's not a lot of money, like $4,000, right?
You can't relate to people,
but I go, oh, I need like pretty much. I was looking at these cruises. We went on this cruise because of what she does. We end up getting invited to a lot of stuff. We got invited to something called a christening, where a ship is leaving the dock for the first time. And we got to go down. All you had to do is get there. You had to be like vaccinated, whatever. But you just got to get there. So we flew down, no problem, get on the ship. And I was like, man, this ship is beautiful. I think we're going to go on this. So I've been spending the last 2 days, because I was just thinking about it again. Like, what's it cost? And I'm like, looking at the cost. I go, okay, well, this is like a 24-hour flash sale. And you just do it to make the money. Now, how responsible is that? Well, it's a lot more responsible than putting it on a credit card. But like, that's the potential that exists. And people are like, I don't know if the whole of humanity will ever catch on. And I actually don't think they should, but that's a different discussion. But for the ones that do want it, it's a very different life. It changes your relationship with money entirely. And the first time you really do it and take a risk, your whole concept of abundance changes. And that's where you want to be, in that true abundance mindset. Like talking about abundance mindset is one thing. Doing a thing to make your life more abundant, that's what really makes a difference.
That was a bar.
Dude, I was gonna say, wow, yeah, man. Wow. Can you repeat that? I'm gonna write that down.
Oh, I don't even know what I said, man.
Oh, it's recorded. So check this out. So you said something earlier that I really love. It says even a broken clock is right twice a day. I wrote that shit down. Man,
it's true. You know what's funny about that saying? I used to tutor kids in high school. That was one of my baptisms by fire, and then this whole working for yourself thing. And I found out something. I said that to a girl. I said, even a broken clock is right twice a day, and she ain't get it. She ain't get it because I'm not teaching them, like, they ain't got to read clocks anymore. Everything's digital. So she was like, "How's that?" Like, it's amazing. But no, broken clock is right twice a day.
Dude, I've never heard that before. And I'm like, I was writing it down over here to the right because I'm like, man, that was a good one. See, one thing I like, I don't even, where do you get inspiration from? Because that is like, you like drop bars all the time. It's crazy.
I'm always writing and reading. I think if you hone, this is really important to me. I look at writing the way I look at weightlifting. Like, I don't know what my potential is. What I do know is that I'm not close to it now. And I just have to continue to practice, hone, create, write in different genres, different meaning. Like, dude, today I wrote about 1,000 words in a fiction story, and it was painful. Like, I probably it wasn't a waste because I'm learning how to work in fiction. I'm pretty good, just, outlining, create this, do the SEO for the ad, hit some engaging bars here, mix it up, some alliteration there, some antithesis there. Oh, you can't forget a little bit of onomatopoeia, like, stuff like that. That I get that, but now I'm trying to do it for another medium. But getting that is gonna make me better. It's gonna make me a better writer. Reading different things is gonna make me better. Right now, I'm reading a horror book at night that I found. I just picked it up, man, based on the cover. It's called 12 Nights in Rider House. I reached out to the author on Twitter. That's what's cool about having a big following. People go, oh, this guy's talking about my stuff. Maybe I should. Now all I gotta do is get verified. I'm verified on 2 or 3 of the major socials. I gotta get verified on Twitter now. But that's the end of it. The point is, I just reach out, man, and it's cool. But I'm always trying to read different stuff. I'm reading fiction now. I'm reading Bruce Lee's The Tao of Jeet Kune Do. And then as I read it, I take notes. I'm actually in a class right now for writing because I want to continue to get better. I always try to get better at this. And that's all you can do, man. Choose 1 or 2 things. You're going to be like, nobody can fuck with me here. I'm going to make sure they can't do it. And if they do, they're going to be so. What's that saying? If you can't come in first, make the person who finishes first have to break the record. That's how I feel about writing. That's what my spot is. I'm going to continue to try and get better. And then by extension, I continue to try and understand SEO because I'm doing everything on the internet. So I spend a lot of time understanding algorithms, not just for search engines, but also social media. That's where I'm going to be untouchable. That's where I'll be able, like, I figured out, like, okay, I want $1 million a year. Like that's kind of my goal. I think with my ambitions and what I like, and the fact that I refuse to become a slave to material, as weird as that sounds to the average person, $1 million a year, that'd be good. So I got a plan to execute that. Almost all of it has to do with communication. In fact, it does all, speaking here, writing there, growing here, and my membership. It's all writing, but that's where I love. That's where I'm happy, and that's where that comes from. Is always trying to talk, always trying to communicate, always trying to be better at it.
You're always a student. That's amazing.
Exactly. I'll never know all I can do. I'll never know it. But if I keep picking up, and look, I admit there's some stuff I can't get through. I really enjoy the prose in Anna Karenina, right? It's gorgeous. I'm not finishing that book though. Fuck Tolstoy. Like, that's not happening. It's a long book, man. It's great, but it's long, man. They call it the perfect novel, and I agree with that. But like, if you ain't got, like, if I went to jail, I might finish Anna Karenina because I wouldn't have anything else to do. But I got a life, man. Like, I got, like, there's other books, but they're good. I mean, I'm looking at my bookcase now. I'm on a big Elmore Leonard kick. Like,
hey, I got a question for you about book learning too, man. Before we change topics.
Yeah. What's the question?
Oh, okay. I was waiting for you to talk about your guy when you grabbed the book.
Oh, yeah. Well, Elmore Leonard is like, he wrote Get Shorty and crap. I'm trying to remember, man. Justified is based on his book and something else. But Elmore Leonard is cool, man. He writes westerns. Westerns and modern crime. Before, I used to be real big into Michael Crichton. I used to say I wanted to be the Black Michael Crichton when I write fiction. Now I want to be the Black Elmore Leonard who writes like Michael Crichton. And I'm sure it'll just, like, come together and keep modifying. But my point is, I'm always picking up stuff, man. That's the only way to become better at what you want to do.
Yeah, I think I agree, man. I'm like a mad scientist in a lot of ways. Like, once mine's a lot of physical health stuff. Right now I'm studying a lot on longevity and different things like that.
Oh, you in the longevity game? Yeah, man. I just learned about MOTSC and metformin, taking that stuff to make the, what do they call it? Citrians?
Yeah, to activate your sirtuins.
Sirtuins, that's the word. Yeah, activate your sirtuins.
I'm on day 2 of a fast, man. I'm doing a water fast right now, and I might go into tomorrow. I'm not too sure, but yeah, I took metformin last night before bed. I'll drop it again today. And this morning when I woke up, I took a gram of NMN, and
And
I'd say
people told me about the NMN,
yeah.
and
Yeah, I'm on all that stuff right now, man. I took a gram this morning too of resveratrol. Like the real kind. It's like a heavy
man,
powder.
dude, you're speaking my language right now, man. This is my because I just got over the fear of injecting myself with shit because like dude, it's kind of scary until you do it and you're like, oh, that feels like nothing. I'm not saying that I could be a heroin addict, but I kind of see how they could be, and I it was no problem. So now I'm like, oh, what can I mix up? What can I work with? So I'm looking up all the peptides that'll
it's getting
work
crazy
for
right now. Like a black
HCAs.
market for peptides.
Oh yeah, well, you know what's cool? You ain't even got to do it. You ain't even got to do the black market, man, because a lot of this stuff, I mean, they can't sell it to you like use it for this. Like a lot of this, like my 5-amino is sold as like for research purposes only. Like, come on, man, like.
Yeah, there was a lot of nootropics that were marketed that way. Like, this is for lab research only. Don't take this.
Yep. That's the only way they can sell it legally. But
that's funny, man. No, dude. Yeah, I kind of like that space. I'm into that a lot. So like, I am in a lot of ways like a research nerd, and I can go like not for days or weeks. Like I'm going for like years, going through all these crazy rabbit holes, and then coming back, starting back at square one. But the question was, I was going to ask you because I'm like more of a podcast, like an audio learning person. I love to read. I feel like I'm constantly always reading, especially on your phone when you're researching just quick topics and papers, especially like if you're in a rabbit hole. But like, I know there's something to be said about reading books, but for whatever reason, I haven't been disciplined enough. Million excuses why I haven't been able to just open books more often. I've read a lot of Tim Ferriss stuff, stuff like that I'm interested in again when it points back to science. But what could you say the strong difference is between audio learning, like through podcasts, and then like book learning? Because I keep hearing like book is where a lot more density happens. What would be the biggest differentiator?
Oh, that's a great question because right now I'm really on this big podcast kick. I found these two that I really enjoy, and they're not pure podcasts, I guess, in the pure sense. They're YouTube channels, but I put them on when I drive, or I'll like put one on the TV when I'm here in the evening. And one's called Wendover Productions, and the other is Real Life Lore. Don't know if you heard of either of those, but they're just like cool when you learn. Wendover Productions is like they break down different things that you may have been curious about in life. A lot of stuff about policy or how avionics and transportation works and stuff like that. And then Real Life Lore like is like real stories of like crazy stuff that's happened, like the guy who was at sea for 183 days, or a guy who got lost in the Sahara Desert, stuff like that. Anyhow, what I found, because I'm pretty good at retaining information, and I retain information from both. But for me to retain information from a good from like audio, it has to be delivered in a certain way. Because when I read a book, I can, assuming the prose is halfway decent, and if it's bad, that's a different story. I can code that in my own system because the only input is my eyes, and there's no like cadence or tonance or rhythm to that. When it comes to a podcast, if it's not a good delivery, it's not going to stick. And that's the big difference between the two, is that you can passively put on a podcast. That doesn't, you don't have to, but you can. You can't passively read like and know what you're looking at. You can't do that. You have to have some concentration to engage.
I think that's probably a big one. Concentration, that's huge.
Yeah, in terms of what you get out of either of them, I think people have a really bad relationship with reading, and I blame school for that. Because if you get good written material, it's just as engaging as a good podcast. The problem is good reading material is just so hard to find. Now a lot of it, or at least not hard to find, was hard to find. This is key. Was because the books were written. A lot of the books we came up on, especially anybody who's a millennial or older, a lot of the books we came up on, they were written without competition, you know. But now a lot of the stuff written is written fully aware that they're competing against Netflix and podcasts and YouTube. They know that the competition isn't other books, other forms of entertainment. And so the books are written that way. The old books, not so much. So if you want to get the most out of a piece of content, you have to be engaged with it regardless. I'm not the guy that's going to say reading is always superior to listening, because that's not true. There's a lot of trash out there that's written, and there's a lot of good stuff that is audio. It just depends. But you always want to focus on engagement. If you focus on that, if you're engaged, that's all that matters.
Yeah, I love that, man. I do feel a difference though when I am reading, because it's like all of the visuals are being created in your head, like all of the voices, everything. So I think you can be a little bit more grounded in the material. And I do like
not only that, but like like reading is an active exercise always. So
like meditation kind of.
Yeah, so you're building some strength, like real ability to focus. Like one of the things that helped me that I like to do when I feel like I'm overloaded, looking at too many screens and pulled in too many different directions, is to pick up a book, man, because you can't do that with books. Like, so when you do it, when you read, and it doesn't even matter if you're reading on your screen, though I think it makes a bit of a difference to read it without a screen. But the single-minded focus it takes for a book tends to pull you back in and get you more focused.
Yeah, I could see you downloading the material on a deeper level. One thing I have noticed with audio is that, yeah, you can do it passively, but then I feel like I have to hear it 2 or 3 times. So sometimes if I find something interesting enough, I'll listen to it all the way through 2 or 3 times or more. So I know you're probably maybe familiar with like the Tao Te Ching, right?
I have that book right on my wall. Yeah, that's another one I gotta take notes
on. I've listened to that audio, I would say about 150, maybe 175 times all the way through.
No kidding.
Yeah, because I'm like naturally like a highly energetic person. Like just even smelling coffee give me anxiety, and so I'm always like concentrating like on fasting, meditation, being grounded. Like because if not, I'll just shoot off into the clouds and burn up. Fly too close to the sun, right? So I got to kind of. I like focusing on stuff like that, like what slows you down, what brings you back down,
and reading a book as opposed to listening.
Probably nothing more grounding, right, than reading a book.
Yeah, will bring you back, keep you really, nothing more grounding, because you can't do anything else when you're reading.
Have you combined the two? Because I struggle with reading, but I'm better with audio. But I heard like you can collect and absorb the information faster and in a better state if you listen.
Now we're talking about some hyper learning, man. Yes, if you I did this a lot when I was learning Spanish, and that's helped me, with it poured over great to English, is that if you can put on the audio and listen and then read through it, or read through it and then listen passively in the background, because your mind is already primed. If you go through it, like if you were like studying for something or needed to like absorb the material, how I would do it now is I'd listen, I'd read it, and then I'd listen to it in the background. And then while I'm listening, right, there's this great app called Otter. When I hear something that I want to like take a note on, I would stop it. I pull up the Otter app and I'd speak, and the transcription is incredibly accurate. And then I just make a note of it. Same way now when you're reading Kindle, that you can stop right in the middle of it, highlight it, and then take a note. It's game changing for absorbing information and really having it stick. If you go through it, because before I used to think I needed to read it first, prime my brain, and be ready. Nope, you can just read through, take notes, listen, and then when you hear something that's really cool, stop, open up your Otter, and just speak into it. It's really cool.
Interesting. Interesting. I'm gonna hit you with a hard question because I know you're full of these, but what is a quote, yours or somebody else's, that really resonates with you?
Somebody else's that resonates with me is probably easy because everything I put out resonates with me.
See, I knew it was a hard one for you.
Yeah, man. I'm trying to think. It's a quote by somebody else. The more experience you have with women, the more you know which women have experience with men.
What? Like, oh, that can go a lot of different ways.
No, I'm not. I just wanted to say that, man. That one I always remember that and say it, man. I think that's funny and accurate. But no, one of my quotes that I always tell people is that two things really will shape your life. These two quotes, and these are both mine and my originals. Oh, the first one is that the difficulty of a task is irrelevant if it's vital to your success. And the second one is that the most powerful belief you can have is that given enough time, you can learn anything. And those two things combined, those changed my life. So I think they'll change anybody's life.
Oh, that was good. That was good. Man, the first one threw me for a loop.
Yeah, I really love that, man. That if you give it enough time, you can learn anything. And I think I've been a student of that probably my whole life. Like I found my first bodybuilding magazine when I was 12. My uncle actually brought it to me, and I started just researching there about science and protein and pathways and all this madness that I got myself involved in at an early age, and it did take me down a rabbit hole. But yeah, I do feel like that. I feel like I can get into any business. I can do anything as long as I allocate enough time to it. We talked about that earlier. Yeah, what do I want to give my minutes to? Like, what do I want to create, and how much time do I want to budget for that? And I think that's kind of how I lead with everything right now.
Hey, yep, completely life changing stuff.
Awesome, man. Hey, I don't know. Do you still have a couple more minutes? I just wanted to ask you a Twitter question, and I'm about done. I don't know how much. If you have any time left, we can always save it for episode number 2.
No, I'm just chilling. What's up, man? I'm about to go cook dinner with my girl, but other than that.
Awesome. Yeah, we won't keep you much longer. I don't know how Daniel fell off. He might have lost reception, so I don't know if he'll be back or not. But just real quick, man, I was going to ask you, if you had like a 10-second Twitter tip for building up a big audience on Twitter, how'd you do that? That's freaking super impressive.
I'll give you a very quick actionable tip, and then I'll give you like a long strategic tip.
Okay, beautiful.
So the short tactical tip is, don't forget, a lot of people focus on the media and they forget the social. They want to say cool things, and they want to be the most engaging or the most entertaining or the most profound, when the reality is the difference is going to come down to, are you interacting with people? Do people know you're there? You're trying to become a node in the network and grow some strength, and the only way that happens is if people know you're there. You can't just be tweeting into the void and hope they're going to pick up, or hope the algorithm is going to push something that you produce. The algorithm doesn't know you're worth pushing unless people are interacting with you. People don't know to interact with you unless you interact with them. So go into the network. Now you have to write good stuff and be prolific. It really helps that I just have a lot to say, and I think people should listen. You kind of got to be full of yourself a little bit. But before all that, you need to realize that this is social media, social first, and interact with people. So that's the quick tactical tip, to always interact. And that means comment, share, like, all that. You can't just exist in the backdrop. All right. The long-term strategic tip is you need to carry and structure yourself like you're a brand. I see a lot of guys come on and they don't have a bio, or they don't have a profile pic, or they don't have any presence outside of Twitter. They're just a guy on Twitter. One of the things that has helped me is that people discover me from other places and follow me on Twitter. They discover me from my books. They discover me from looking up my things and being brought to my website. They discover me from podcasts and interviews, and all of that. People find me because of the writing. People want to talk to me because of the background, so I get stuff done with podcasts. But I guess all that comes back to say is that you have to build a persona, and if you build a persona and really mold and take care of that reputation and try and grow, really push yourself, think of yourself like a business. Like, what did Jay-Z say? I'm not a businessman, I'm a business man. Like, that's a big significant way I think. I know this.
Love that. Big differentiator.
Yeah. So those are the two big points. Tactically, use the apps, whatever the app is, get in there, comment, and they're all like this. Instagram's the same, Twitter's the same, Facebook's the same. The more you use it, the more it will be kind to you and push your stuff, and this will also entice people to follow you. And then strategically, just keep building yourself up, because there's two ways to kind of grow on or two paths to a big following on any social media. Either you are a heavy user of the platform, or you have like mainstream fame, or like I always joke and say I'm like C-level famous. So it's more like at this point B- level, like but that helps. That runs a long way. People have me on different shows and different podcasts and interview me in different books. And when you look me up on the internet, stuff comes up, and that stuff helps. So those two things combined make a big difference.
Beautiful, man. I feel you on the part from I guess as far as like the bot recognizing you and being friendly to you because you were friendly to the bot. I see this a lot on Facebook. So you'll see people that get a ton of engagement and they don't have that many followers. Then you see the opposite. But I've noticed that a long time ago when I started talking about that. I've never experienced it on Twitter. So thank you so much. I can't speak to that, but that makes perfect sense. So as far as even engaging on Twitter, are you like just going through like commenting, interacting with a ton of people that you're interested in, that you think like? Do you jump into like follow a hashtag and then interact with those people? Or is there a strategy? It seems like there's a lot of rabbit holes on Twitter.
Well, when I see stuff that I like, I interact. I mean, you have to understand, one of the things the algorithm does, and it does this better than I give it credit for, I think, is that it looks at what you like, and it'll actually tell you that you can go see it, everything it thinks you like, and it's using that to figure out what to show you, because it can't show you everything when you log on. Like I follow 910 people. Let's assume 25% of them are active. It might even be lower than that. So that comes out to be about 100 and about 200 and 25 people. Let's assume that. Okay. Mm-hmm. So I like of varying levels of activity, and then what they're sharing of other people's. It's got to decide what to show you, and it's going to do that based on what it thinks you like and the relationship you have with the person who shares it. So that's how it works and how it figures these things out. And it's important for you to just continually interact with people and write about what you like. But when you interact with people, interact with the stuff that you find interesting, that you have something to say or contribute.
Yeah, I think nothing beats that, man. And I see that like on these social media guru training, things. But I think at the end of the day, like you said, man, it's just real interaction, real people, real conversations. And yeah, I think the systems and the bots love that stuff. So
for sure.
I'm back.
Welcome back.
So man, this has really been a great conversation. I think we covered everything, man. We really covered a lot on this one. We appreciate your time. Where can people find you online? What services do you offer? Because a lot of people, I think it's one of your, like you said, your intellectual property is your superpower. So what do you offer as far as to the community?
I like to. So first, I had my course available. That's down for now, but then I'm bringing it back up. I run a small, very exclusive service where I write and produce content for uh where I write and produce content for people on Twitter, and I can help them out or do consulting for what to do on social media for your website. And and I have a great book about sobriety, and I have a great program about dealing with bad habits on my site as well. You can find all this stuff on my site. As far as how to find me in general, very simple. I'm Ed Latimore everywhere. Like my Twitter handle is Ed Latimore, my Instagram is Ed Latimore, my Facebook is Ed Latimore, my website is edlatimore.com. I'm Ed Latimore everywhere. See that whole power of the branding? You can't escape Ed Latimore. If you ever heard that name, you see it once, it's everywhere, man. So
Yes.
that's who I am, and that's how you find me. Just looking up Ed Latimore, whatever platform. If I except YouTube, man, I had to take freaking Ed Latimore once. Somebody beat me to it, and I'm sure they're trying to sell it to me if they can.
If they can, those leeches. What is one thing you could tell a new entrepreneur to overcome that point to become an entrepreneur?
Oh man, one thing. If I could get, don't tell anybody what you're doing, man. Like I was trying to come up with like one that will cover everything.
Move in silence. It sounds like you want to say move in silence.
Well, no, because I don't think that's good advice. Let me think about this. Okay. Don't be afraid to take an L, man. Like it's not like you didn't lose. Your idea lost. You're not a loser. Your idea was a loser. You cannot tie your identity into what you're trying to do. Because if you do that, then you're gonna take a lot of this ugly shit personally, and it is not like if you do, it's not fun. Like dude, it's not fun when you launch a product and like nobody buys it. But if you think nobody buys it because they hate me, that's a lot different than nobody buys it because my launch strategy was bad. One is a separation between you and the product. The other is like an indictment of self based on the business market. It's not, and you can't do that. A lot of people make that mistake, I've realized.
That's a good one. That is a good one. A lot of people take